My paper is a theoretical synthesis on social disorganization theory, enemy strain, and general strain theories. Disorganization theory was not developed until the 20th century. This theory was developed out of studies of urban crime and delinquency from the Chicago Institute for Juvenile Research, a study conducted by Clifford Shaw and Henry McKay. The system is described as disorganized or anomic if there is a disruption in its social cohesion or integration, a breakdown in social control, or malalignment among its elements. And then going into anomie theory, Durkheim used the term anomie to refer a state of normlessness or a lack of social regulation in modern society as on condition that promotes higher rates of deviant behaviors such as suicide. But Merton adapted his theories, and out of that came the idea of the American dream. The lower classes and minorities are taught to reach for higher socioeconomic goals, but lack the prior emphasis for achieving those goals. In other words, the ends are stressed over the means. We suggest that social environmental strains and opportunities in American society and criminology influence the development of anomie strain in the first half of the century, as purported by Hagen and McCarthy. It would seem that the literature on social disorganization is concerned with three main concepts: informal, family or institutional social control, collective efficacy, and poverty. And the literature on strain theories is concerned with three main areas such as success, bonds, types of stressors. I will review the literature of both these theories in an effort to synthesize them. First, I will discuss informal. Burgess then developed the concentric zone theory to explain the phenomena. Basically, as the city grows, the previous set of rings is invaded by the new, and in that outward migration to new neighborhoods. The regions adjacent to or in the sectors of the city zoned for industry and commerce show the highest concentrations of juvenile male delinquents. This has statistically held over several years, as shown by police arrest records from 1926, 1927, 1931, and 1935. The central zone has shown to have highest concentration of delinquents. The parents of the Martin brothers were accused of allowing their boys to be truant to go out and beg for them. In the early years of delinquency, the boys did not understand what they were doing, did not adhere to societal standards. Carl Martin said that his brothers and the friends they chose were where they acquired their delinquency without knowledge of wrongdoing. Social norms were extremely divergent. What was acceptable in some areas was not acceptable in others. There was a study by Warner, Schwartz, and Hawk that emphasized the divide between black and middle-class neighborhoods, which suggested ties between law-abiding residents and gang members reduced the likelihood of informal social control. They suggest that there is a sort of competition for socioeconomic means and societal norms and cultural and lifestyle norms that will affect the ties informed across social groups. This fractionalization is fairly consistent with the ideas of social disorganization. If the community members cannot bridge these kinds of gaps, then informal social control will be harder to exert. Another study by Cronley et al., done in relation to social disorganization theory, studied the links between childhood homelessness, maltreatment, and crime. These youths had a higher chance of becoming criminal due to the lack of family social control. This is where the rise of gangs and the likelihood of victimization come into play. Collective efficacy. This lack of opportunity is significant to delinquency in urban areas where relationships are impersonal due to anonymity, which releases the delinquent from social control. Gangs would sit on front porches and be told to leave and would, but then would turn right around and come back. This happened in a study of Wicker Park in Chicago. Young people are looking to buy drugs, and they will do whatever they have to get money, and drug dealers will drag them into addiction to make money. It could be seen as dangerous for people to intervene, especially when drugs are involved. If a small problem can no longer be fixed, then its character is called into question. In this situation, neighbors cannot predict what behavior will look like. Those that live in the city begin to learn who they can trust, and all others are shunned. Going back to Warner, Schwartz, and Hawk's study, findings suggest, however, that the perceived heterogeneity of a neighborhood could lead residents to question if their values and norms are going to be generally embraced. And as the next study hypothesizes Neighborhood disadvantage, residential instability and disorder restricts residents' abilities to cultivate close relationships with friends and family, regardless of whether they live in the same neighborhood. Disadvantage and instability in community can weaken social ties. Neighborhoods that are characterized by socioeconomic disadvantage have high rates of poverty and unemployment, low rates of education, and high rates of residential mobility often suffer from the decline or disappearance of local institutions. Without certain institutions, there is no basis to foster social interaction that contributes to the strengthening of community ties. Perceptions and reactions to disorder differ and can be shaped by the surrounding environment. A study by Cornwell and Baylor finds that personal networks can create a type of the lack of personal networks can create a type of strain on those who live in communities with high levels of disadvantage, which may inhibit their ability to maintain social ties. Poverty. Sampson and Wilson report that poor blacks live in communities that have more family disruption than poor whites. The competitive nature of the economy sentenced people on the lowest rungs of the socioeconomic strata to live in these areas due to low cost of housing. This concentrated unskilled workers, usually foreigners, in the inner city, while natives of a higher status moved out and concentrated in more attractive sections of the city. Delinquency was also perpetuated in the family of the Martins, and John recalls going to the market with his father to beg for dead chickens and take whatever else. When he was older and moved up to begging in the well-to-do neighborhoods, he and his brothers took coal and lead pipes to sell, pilfered various food from stores, and broke in to steal rabbits to sell. Moving on to strain. Success. Merton suggests that leaving the institutional requirements is a result of the culture and motivates those with limited access to strive for what they cannot achieve. The strain begins with a disconnect between the dream, which suggests universal success, and reality that not everyone has the same opportunities. The want of monetary success can be a matter of being ahead, wanting more, and social inclusion. Individuals will choose the path or paths that will prove most useful in gaining results. General strain theory suggests that a wide array of negative emotions can influence stress, which can lead to crime. Crime is more likely the response when people have previously been exposed to it or the risk is small. Negative feelings can push people into action because they want to do something about it. Adolescents are more likely to commit crime because they have fragile bonds with family and stronger bonds with peers. They are more likely to have less social control. Schools have been suggested to be better agents of control than families. It could be more efficient, teachers might more easily identify deviant behavior, and schools have a strong goal in conserving order. The school or education is likely to improve adjustment, help develop ways to reach potential, and transmit general culture. Moving on from bonds, types of stressors. Work-family conflict can affect the relationships between a mother and her children, but also between spouses. Even though the study suggests individuals experiencing strain are more likely to be negative in nature, which can cause a ripple effect throughout the troubled individual's social network. Basically, types of stressors come down to events which they are not able to cope with. Synthesis. Social disorganization and strain theories are closely tied in the respect that there are numerous parallels between them. Those include bonds with conventional and unconventional members of society, which ties into collective community ties, and ties to friends and family. There is also a lack of adherence to the presence of norms when stress becomes too much to handle with no positive or legitimate outlets. Disorder can be seen as a lack of care or an inability to hold on to ties when there is constant disruption in the community as people move in and out. Social disorganization and strain are basically studying one link of problems on two seemingly different levels. But it could be said that all of these are out of the individual's control. Social disorganization can be a result of an ever-changing economy and as a way to further oppress against those in the lower class. Strain is merely a way to account for human emotions which do not directly lead to crime. A turn to crime when all methods or opportunities to cope or advance are taken away and people are left to survive on the most basic level, it will cause a break in conventional social norms. The maladaptive behavior will be transmitted through the group, which falls under this strain. Both theories are a matter of individual perception. Neither disorder nor negative events can fully account for the choice to commit crime on their own. I say this because not everyone who lives in poverty will become a criminal, nor will everyone who experiences a stressor turn to crime. Both theories are a way to explain crime under duress at a purely individual level. In conclusion, Sean McKay's 1942 studies on social disorganization theory and Merton's anomie strain theory and Agnew's general strains theory have numerous overlaps and would be better if they were combined into one theory to study the dimensions of individual maladaptation in relation to causes